When do you want to start, by the way?
We're going.
We're going?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I mean, one of the cool things about going into a cool studio like this, if you have a budget, is, you know, it seems like a good place for experimentation. It's like that atmosphere, you know. So where maybe if you're just on a laptop in your bed with some headphones or something like that, you know, it's not really conducive to experimentation, you know, where you get in a room with other people and you're like, okay, we're really doing this right now, you know. It's like when I was working with Crescioni from Nine Inch Nails and Manson, this was just some years ago, a couple albums ago, you know, dude always had some weird instrument that I've never seen before, or just like, hey, the guitar riff you just recorded, try it on this, and hands me, you know, just some weird guitar that only had 5 strings or something, you know, just like, you know, I like all that kind of stuff, you know, where you're doing things differently.
Yeah.
You know, we took an amp, you know, like a battery operated amp, and put it in a toilet, you know, in a studio bathroom with a mic, and recorded, you know, a couple of layers doing that. I mean, and it's cool because you're not going to get that sound out of a plug-in, you know. Well, maybe, but I don't know, you know, was it a good sound? I don't know, but was it fun? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the experience, really. Yeah, it's all about the experience. And yeah, man, that's killer. I had a buddy of mine, I don't know, you might know who this guy is. His name's Sean Reagan. Do you know who that is?
It sounds super familiar.
He still has a project, but I think they're on a break, or I don't know if they've disbanded. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he had a project called Ritual Aesthetic. Okay. And they are on their last album I mixed and mastered. They're on Cleopatra. But after that album, he started working with Chris too. Yeah, and he told me like great things about him. I'd love to meet him one day and work with him. But yeah, man. So I guess it's true. It's like, it's awesome to be able to work with people that you admire their sound, you admire their career. It's great to do that. It's great to go into, you know, iconic studios. But at this point in time, you know, yeah, it's like you get a laptop, you get an interface, and if you have good feel and you know how you want your music to sound and you have some patience, like you can get there.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah. I think, you know, what a lot of people I'm doing, you know, like you mentioned, working with people you admire and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, you admire them. They maybe did an album that inspired you, and, you know, had a certain sound. You're kind of doing something along those lines. Yeah. But then there's also like the name brand, you know what I mean, that, you know, labels like to see, you know. So I could imagine for a lot of like up and comers, you know, wanting to get in the studio with, you know, someone that's already on a label that has those relationships. It's kind of a part of the reason why I think that bands still go into studios and work with, you know, artists and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel about the whole label thing? Because I know like you've been with Metropolis for a while, right? For
a long time.
Yeah, a long time. I was looking back through your discography, at least like over 10 years for sure, right?
Yeah. They turned me down at first, actually. I was 17, and I ran into the owner. Someone pointed out the owner at a show I was at. Like, oh, that's the owner of Metropolis Records. And this was back, you know, when Metropolis Records had those compilations on the counters of every Hot Topic and everything. They were like the cool industrial label, you know. And I walked up to him and I was like, I'm going to be on your label someday. He's like, yeah, whatever, kid. And just totally brushed me off. And then I sent in my first demos, and they wanted nothing to do with me. They're like, whatever, I don't even know what this kid's doing, you know, because especially at the time, there was no band in America doing what we were doing. Like that whole Terror EBM thing, you know, like we were the first American band to get, you know, signed doing that. And so we signed to a German label first called Neutech. And then we started touring. And then for our second album, I finally got Metropolis on board with us. That was kind of, you know, like a teenage dream of mine, I think. And, you know, sadly, Dave passed a couple of years ago. But his wife and his family took over, and they've been crushing it. And, you know, Metropolis has always treated me super, super well. I know, like, a lot of labels don't do a lot for their artists, but, like, there's never been a time where I went to them where I actually needed something that they didn't, like, just come through. You know, so
it's great to hear that, because usually it's the opposite. You know,
yeah. Unfortunately, now, if you ask me, and a lot of kids ask, you know, they're like, oh, what, you know, for recommendations, should I go to a label? And I almost always say no. You know, it just, you know, if I was starting over right now today, I don't know. It's such a weird atmosphere. Okay, well, what are they going to do for you? Are they going to give you money to go into the studio to make music videos, to do this and that? Or, oh, no, well, I've heard stories about people trying to sign a record deal and they're so excited and they have to pay for their own CD duplication. I'm like, so what is this deal? Okay, so you're paying for your own CD duplication and they're taking, oh, wow, 90% of your streaming royalties. So what are you doing?
Right.
Like, what are they doing for you? Nothing. You're putting their logo on the back of your CD, and it gives you like social status, right? I mean, I guess is what it is. They see themselves as, I'm not a local band anymore. I'm signed, or whatever. And that's cool. And there's value in that. I guess we've decided there is. But at the end of the day, it's there's not enough money to go around in the first place. Like, just make your money. You know what I mean? Like, every stream counts. We're making 0.005 cents per stream. You need millions and millions and millions of streams to make anything close to like a living.
Right.
So if you're giving a huge percentage of that away to someone else, it's like, think long and hard before you do that. Like, what are they doing for you? If they want to give you 20 grand to go into the studio, and XYZ, they want to give you tour support. They want to, push you in all these different directions. Then that's a totally different story. But like, I just don't hear those kind of deals happening anymore, at least for, bands in our genre, whatever, metal, goth, industrial, just, so in this little subculture, I don't really hear about it.
Like, how would you describe, like, because I know your sound has changed over time, like you've morphed your sound drastically, but how would you describe your genre?
Yeah, I don't know.
Genreless?
Yeah, at this point. Yeah. I just kind of, I listen to a bunch of different kind of stuff, and, if anything, I kind of like just pushing boundaries. So I didn't set out, there's no overarching theme to set out to be like, this is the sound it's going to be this mixed with that, mixed with this, mixed with that. It's just whatever sounds really cool in the moment. And I don't give a shit if people like it or not, and I think that's where we've kind of broken loose a bit. Like this album's doing like super, super well. Which I was shocked because I'm like, okay, the first single is basically trap deathcore.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, because I was like, oh shit, he has like a deathcore thing happening now. That's fucking sick, man. Well, I love those riffs.
Yeah. Well, I've been listening to like I grew up on like death and black metal, and I've been listening to the evolution of that ever since, and there stick out bands like Thy Art Is Murder, Sign to the Swarm, and Crown Magnetar, stuff like that, where I'm listening to them like, dude, this is fucking sick, and it's weird because some of it almost kind of breaks into an industrial territory, just the way everything's super chopped up, and so it's almost like every genre is starting to blend into every other genre at this point, anyways, and it's like, why set boundaries? Like, why? I mean, we had some success with a song called Parasitic years ago, and that was like our breakout track. We had like 8 million views on YouTube before the video got taken down, and I think a lot of bands might have looked at that and said, let's keep doing that, because that seemed to really work. But like, I can't be one of those people. Like, I can't just keep going to bat and doing the same thing over and over and over again. Just from an artistic perspective, I have to be authentic, to what I want to do at any given time, and might lose some fans, might gain some new ones or whatever, I think at this point that Psyclon 9 fans kind of know that they're going to get something different every time at this point, because
hell yeah,
if you do kind of look back through the evolution, yeah, I mean, the first album and even like the fourth album doesn't sound like the same band, and this is 8 albums later, so.
Yeah, man, like you really have come a long way, and it's, you've had already like a sick, expansive career. So you said the new album's doing great, and then Oblivion. How is how was there? I mean, when I saw that first video, I was like, or the
crawling from cunt to casket.
Love it, dude. Before I went to watch it, I'm like, I already knew like this is gonna be sick. And then like just the visuals and then the heaviness of it, and then I'm like, there's fucking deathcore in this. I'm like, I was not expecting that. That's fucking sick. How's the response been so far?
I think, really good. The live shows, I mean, the kids have been going off to that one. Even before the song came out, we were playing it live, kind of getting, showing people some of the newer stuff.
Yeah.
And we'd have a pit every single night for that track.
Fuck yeah.
And I don't think that it's super far off brand for us to have like breakdowns because like, I remember listening to bands like First Blood back in the day and or like All Shall Perish, back in 2006 or something like that. And then, I started adding electronic breakdowns, those same sorts of patterns into our stuff even back then. It maybe not as in your face as it is now, but like, it's been a part of the brand, I think. So I don't think it was super shocking. We do have a song on the album that's basically black metal. I mean, it's just full on blast beats the whole way through and everything. And, I've never fully gone over the line like that before, but who cares at this point?
Dude,
I just want to do something fun. And if I feel like doing something that's super fucking fast and, basically Infinite Annihilator, Demon Borgia kind of, just... cool, man. Let's do it. It's just I like to have fun.
Yeah, like what you said before, it gets boring if you keep doing the same album over and over. And like we can all think of bands that do that. And yeah, it's like the whole point of this is to have fun and enjoy ourselves, enjoy writing music. And you have to change, you have to evolve, you have to transform and the next album push yourself a little more, try something different. And it sounds like that's exactly what you did. But yeah, it is freeing to know that like, even though it's dark, it's heavy, it's metal, it's aggressive, it's horrifying, it's all these things, but you're free to like spread your wings and kind of experiment and do whatever you want.
I guess I guess if I ever had a goal with Psyclon 9, it was to kind of take, all the music I was listening to, all my favorite bands, and kind of mix them up in a pot, and so if I was listening to, maybe industrial and black metal and death metal, and XYZ, alternative rock or whatever, and you start mixing them up and you start developing a sound. But like, if you remember, look back at the original goal, it's like all those different bands and genres sound completely fucking different. So it's like, you are somewhere in the middle, but that doesn't mean you can't lean super hard in any one of those directions at any given time, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that was maybe the breakthrough for me over the last like couple of years. It's just like, there should be no restraints, just do whatever you feel like and lean super hard into it. Like not just a taste of something, just go super hard. If it's going to be, it's this weird acid riff and then it goes into trap and then into deathcore and then to like dance industrial and then into it's like cool, I like it. And I love like jarring music. I love when someone subverts my expectations, or like you have to sit there and think like, how the fuck did they do that?
Give me an example of that, like one of the first thing that comes to mind.
Poppy.
She's amazing, man. Like she's really come a long way as well. Like holy shit. Like that's a great example.
Yeah. And like her career, I mean, it's all over the fucking place, right? And now she's like huge in metal, which is crazy because, growing up listening to metal and like having that be so close to my heart, I couldn't imagine a lot of like metal fans letting something like that fly. It's like,
I know, right?
This chick was like, Britney Spears like 3 years ago, and now, but I think she's fucking great. And she, what's the name of that album? I Disagree. That was 4 or 5 years ago or something. I heard that once, like one song off of that, and I was just like, dude, stop everything. What is this? Mm-hmm. Like, I have to know who this is. It's fucking so good. But, or like, not to name super popular bands, but like Bring Me the Horizon. Mm-hmm. I remember hearing them years ago. It's like, okay, cool. It's another one of those bands. Until they weren't, it's like they started mixing all these different genres, and it's like, it's kind of like EDM and hip hop and you know and then what they do, you know, and they kind of blended it all together, and you know, and God, that's when I started liking it. Is when they started doing something different, you know, or like going back way further than that, hearing like Mindless Self-Indulgence for the first time. God, like I remember someone showed me Bitches years ago, and I thought, oh, okay, it's one of those Limp Bizkit bands or something. I don't care, right? Years later, they signed to Metropolis Records. This is 2005. So I'm like, oh, wow. Like, they're our label mates now. I'm going to go check them out again. And I bought the record, Frankenstein Girls. Mm-hmm. And I brought it home, and I hit play. And I sat there through the whole record just shocked. Like, how the fuck? Because every time you start to kind of wrap your mind around how he made this beat, it's like it's already changed. It's gone. So, and you can't keep up. Your brain can't keep up. And I just loved that, you know, and how fast it just jumped from this to that to this to that.
Yeah.
And, like the chaos of it. So I think I really love stuff that kind of chaotically jumps from here to here and subverts your expectations, you know, in a cohesive way where it sounds good. I mean, I don't like just random, you can't throw pots and pans down the stairs, you know what I mean? But
just like, noise.
Yeah. And okay, I mean, there is a time and place for noise too, but.
Sure. Yeah, I love that because I think, unfortunately, a lot of, like, the general public might assume that artists like yourself and like people that are into the really extreme types of metal are very, like, pigeonholed into that, and that maybe they like, because I used to, when I was younger, I was very like, no, only these genres and I don't like everything else. But now, dude, I have a huge respect for all fucking genres, and there's artists in all genres that I love, and I'm not afraid to admit it. So give me an example of like, what would be an artist that
Silver Sun Pickups.
Okay.
I already knew the question.
You already knew it. Okay.
Just
Okay.
I love that band. Sounds nothing like us. It's totally out of left field. You know, I mean, they're, what would you call? Are you familiar with them? It's like okay, indie kind of Smashing Pumpkins-esque, really high pitched vocals. Almost sounds like a girl. I think the dude has one of those beautiful voices I've ever heard. And it's one of those bands where I listen to it, I'm like, fuck, I wish I could do this. You know, not my path. You know, but I mean, there's just something beautiful about just everything that they do. Like, there's not one terrible song, you know. You can literally just go to their Spotify page and just go to whatever's track one and just keep listening on a road trip, and you will be happy, you know, like discovering this band if you haven't heard them already. You know, I might be like the last one to even get on that train because I kind of got into them a few years ago. Maybe like 4 years ago, something like that. But yeah, God, they're great. I love the sense of experimentation they have. They do some really weird things with synths and guitars that are just, the juxtaposition is phenomenal. But yeah, that's a band that people probably wouldn't expect that I listen to. You know, on this last tour that we did, we were doing this VIP thing where we did a mini acoustic set, and one of the songs that we did, just out of, you know, kind of following up on the question, we did a Smashing Pumpkins cover. Nice. You know, that I didn't, you know, Disarm, the song Disarm. I didn't think people would really expect it, but it was great because every single night, like, everyone knew the song immediately, you know, and it had some people singing along, and, you know, it went over super, super well. So, you know, I would imagine, you know, so, you know, thinking about even our fans, maybe I do them a disservice by maybe pigeonholing them, like, oh, they're not going to know this, they're not going to like this, they only like XYZ. And it's like, no, I think we all, after we grow up a bit, we all kind of expand our horizons, you know. Because I do remember being a metal kid and only liking metal, and if you didn't
super angsty and shit.
Do you remember, I don't know if you did this, but we had something called poser taxing.
What's that?
Oh, it's kind of like, I mean, there's kind of a meme that goes around about it, but you know, the kid shows up to school wearing a Napalm Death shirt, and you're like, name 3 songs.
Okay, got it.
Give me a fucking shirt. Dude, we used to do that shit. That's funny. Like in high school. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. We took it way too seriously.
Poser taxing, I like that.
Poser tax. Yeah.
That's fucking good. Like, when you said you played a Smashing Pumpkins cover, like, to learn that the audiences are still like super open-minded to all styles of music, and they still know the song, like you said, and they're into it, and feels good. It's relieving, because it's like, I'm not really a fan of the type of audiences, or like the extreme metalheads that are like super fucking close-minded to any other type of music besides this.
I mean, it just kind of comes down to tribal culture, right? You know, like we all tend to find the tribes that we fit in with, and you know, especially I think when we're younger too, you know, we really identify with it, you know, no matter what it is. It could be music, it could be, you know, politics, or, you know, whatever, you know, we choose our side, and we kind of, you know, get militant about it sometimes. And it's, you know, it's probably the biggest problem with the world, period.
True.
Is that we draw these arbitrary lines everywhere, you know, and, well, hey, you're on that side of the line, so fuck you. And, you know, it's like, yeah, I listen to Iron Maiden and you listen to Foreigner. I don't know. Fucking, okay, let's fight, I guess. It's strange. I don't know. It's strange. I think it's just like ingrained in us. I think it's just human behavior, period. I think if you took away music, we still have it.
Tell us a little bit about your production process, because on your records you produce everything, right? You write all the music, you do the production, you play all the instruments, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Has that always been the case since you started Psyclon 9? Has you always been self-produced, or did you learn that over time, or?
No, you know, it was something I learned over time. I went to producers for the first like four or five records, I think, something like that. You know, the first two albums were done completely on hardware. I didn't even use a computer, you know. So I was so far out of that sphere that, you know, I thought it was black magic. I had no idea. People said, you know, mastering to me, and I seriously thought it was voodoo. I have no idea what these people are doing or how they're doing it, you know. And it was intimidating. You know, and it was just, it took enough times going to the studio with other people, you know, watching what they're doing. And I'm like, okay, it's not that hard, you know. At the end of the day, I'm the one saying, hey, no, turn that up. Okay, wait, no, turn that down again. Oh, wait, no, turn that up again. No, just down a little bit. No, here, can I grab the fader? Okay, there we go. You know, you know, and it kind of devolves into that a little bit. And it not to say that there are people who do this that, you know, don't know more than I do, because there are people whose whole lives are production and mixing and mastering. But, you know, for what I'm doing, I guess I found that when I was writing, knowing that I was going to work with a producer, I would always think, well, this is going to get cleaned up later. It's going to sound better later. And it doesn't really work that way to an extent, right?
Yeah.
You write something and the demo is like super heavy and crushing, but it's super muddy, you know, and then when it gets all cleaned up, it's not as aggressive anymore or something, like, you know. So what I started doing is kind of mixing as I wrote, you know. So like I'll start with a mastering chain in place. That's the first thing I do almost, you know, and like just push everything into a limiter so I can kind of gauge where things will sit in a mix as I'm adding them, you know. So I might start with a synth or some drums or something, and just get like a loop going, you know, and then I'll kind of just tweak and mix a little bit, you know, then maybe add guitar or add another layer or this or that. And then, you know, it's not a lot of reductive mixing. It's a lot of like additive composing, I'd say. You know, I of course I'm doing things like, you know, scooping the little, you know, low end out of guitars, and, you know, high cut and low pass, and you know, all the standard stuff that you would do.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, I think more than anything, I mix and master as I write, which is maybe a little strange, but I feel like the songs have turned out better. You know, I feel like they sound better ever since I started doing it that way. You know, I'm not just layering a bunch of stuff together, knowing that someone's going to come along and make it sound good. You know?
Yeah.
You know, because if I can make it sound good before I do anything else with it, then, well, it already sounds good, right? I guess it sounds kind of simple, but, you know, it's about the choices you make while you're composing. because especially with synths, a lot of synths are like full frequency instruments, what I mean?
They are.
They're covering everything, so it's the sounds that you're designing and or choosing, for certain parts. I mean, you just gotta kind of be a little more selective. And I think it's something you just figure out over time, it starts to become second nature.
Yeah, I love that, man. It is unorthodox, but I've worked that way. I know other people that work that way. Yeah, it's not the way a lot of people work, but I do think if you have a specific vision in mind, it doesn't matter how you get there. Like, so you're getting there, you're getting the results you want, and that's all that matters. So yeah, maybe you'll collaborate in the future with other people, but you've had that experience already, and now you're doing what works for you. So that's all that matters.
I'm definitely not turned off to the idea of collaborating with other artists or producers or anything like that. It's just I think there's a time and a place, and I just kind of had to do what I had to do during the last few years to kind of, I don't know, figure out where I was going, just like direction-wise. And I guess I started seeing the production and the mastering and all of it as a part of the art, really, not just, hey, I'm the singer-songwriter, so I'm going to write the lyrics and come up with the melody, like I wrote the song. It's like, yeah, well, there's all this other aspect to it. It's like, the way it feels in the car.
Yep.
That there's art to it,
Oh, absolutely. You've come up with your own process, and it's works for you, and the fans love it. You love it. You get across the finish line, and that's all that matters. But yeah, man, I like that a lot. I do a lot of my own stuff, so like I self-produce, and I'm mixing as I'm writing and all that shit. So I totally understand like where you're coming from there.
But do you have anything on the master bus?
Yeah. No, not a lot, but a little bit. Like I like to mix into a limiter just for that same reason you described, because then what's going to happen to it in the end, and usually it's the same thing. It's like,
and then you do final tweaks after.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. It is a bit. I think the more old school guys kind of look down on that stuff, especially traditional mastering engineers. They hate hearing that, and mixers hate hearing that, like old school guys. But I understand and I respect that old school way, and it has its place. But I think for this type of music, the really, really aggressive, hard hitting, nuked sound, like there's a technique to that too. And if you were to do it traditionally, like say you write the song, you record it, you add your layers, it's all there, but there's nothing going on the mix or master bus. It's just, it sounds how you like it that way. But then when you hand that off to a mastering engineer, depending on who you work with, it might not, I'm not saying it can't come out great, but it's going to be different. It's going to be different.
And the artist is already used to it sounding a certain way.
Right.
So almost any change is going to be met with a little bit of resistance.
Right. And even when maybe you're boosting some highs, cleaning up the lows, and then you do your final limiting for the loudness and the intensity of it, I've found over the years, especially for this hard-hitting type of heavy industrial and metal with lots of guitars, the full frequency spectrum shit, like once you get to that end, if you're not careful with the limiting, it basically, all your kicks and snare, like your transients kind of disappear, or they're not landing where you want them to land because you weren't anticipating that. You know what I mean? So so I understand why you do that. It can be tricky. Yeah.
It can definitely be tricky.
Yeah.
And we all kind of learn as we go too, So I've always been a bit of a gear nerd, and like every morning I wake up and look at like synthtopia.com or like gearnews.com. I always know the new thing that's coming out, and so I'm always actively interested in new technology and learning new ways to kind of go about doing things that I'm already doing, so I don't get stuck in loops or whatever. I don't know. So you have me thinking of, I'm like, hey, could it be better? Let's see, what can I do next to
that's the thing, it's never ending.
Transients
it's never ending. There's this new plugin that I was talking to a friend of mine about the other day, but maybe you've heard of it or used it. It's called Optimus. Have you seen that? It's a mastering plugin, like a mastering limiter clipper thing, but it has built-in AI. And at first I was like, I'm scared. Or, that's weird. Like, I'm afraid of that. But then I checked it out. I downloaded the demo, used it, and I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. Like, what it does is you put it on your master bus, you let it scan your whole mix or your whatever stage it's in, and then it generates like AI presets from the scanning of your mix and where the frequencies are, and it suggests like 3 different AI presets, and they're all different colors. And what's cool about it is
like warm, upfront, balanced.
That type of thing. And you can there's a mix knob on the AI, so you could use like 10% of the AI suggested preset. That's and it's actually fucking sick. So I mean, there's so many great new tools and toys, especially like with the plugins keep getting better and better. And like, how do you feel about that? Like the new AI and music thing?
I'm not opposed to using AI, you know, whether it's for, you know, maybe lyrical inspiration or even maybe just like inspiration for a riff, or like, you know, I'm looking for a sound that's like just menacing or something, you know. It's like you're talking to the guy that has like the big wall of modular synths and, you know, a bunch of analog stuff or whatever. It just, I don't feel like any sound source is wrong. You know, I think it's whatever inspires you, you know, and there's that part of me that knows that in the next couple of years, you know, it's going to be complete AI generated music with an AI generated voice, and it's going to be selling more than I will ever in my entire career. You know, and I'm not really sure how I feel about it, but you can't really stop the evolution of technology. Yeah. You know, it's like, then we're those old men telling people to get off our lawns or whatever, you know, it's like, oh, those blasted kids with their blasted AI, you know, fucking robot music. I mean, God, people used to make fun of me for doing electronic music, you know, that's not real music. You know, that's a synthesizer. You know, he made a computer make that for him. I'm like, no, I had to program this shit, man. You know, a lot of that's hand played, you know. Yeah. So I don't know. You know, it's going to be weird to know that there's probably going to be like 11-year-old kids that are just hitting generate on Splice, dropping loops into whatever, a DAW, and then auto mix master, you know, and then it's huge. Wasn't there like a Drake song or something a couple years ago?
Yep.
Is that who I'm thinking?
Yeah, it was all AI generated and shit.
And it was like his biggest song.
Yeah, and they put it up. It's taking like human value in music to 0 value. And it's like, well, I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the future that everyone saw. You know, everyone saw the future as being, oh, AI is going to be great. It's going to do all like the factory jobs for us. That way we can focus on human to human interaction, art, and, you know, music and everything. It's like, no, they're taking that too. No, like we don't need you for anything anymore. Yeah, you know. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little disturbing in some ways, but you know, we'll have to see how the culture reacts to it, you know, whether or not, I mean, who knows? This could be where there's a complete backlash against, you know, modern music altogether, and we go back to like oldies, you know, back when there were like barbershop quartets and stuff, and like, oh, remember when people used to have to harmonize and like remember all their parts, and there was no backing tracks,
actually perform.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't really seen a lot of that, right, in our lifetimes even.
Yeah, I hope that it comes back around. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to get so crazy with the tech and the AI, and it's going to be so soulless that I think there's going to be like an urge and a yearning for authenticity again, and then hopefully that'll all come back around. We'll see. But yeah.
Yeah, just acoustic only. You know, no one wants anything to do with anything that's processed. You know, get rid of all the electric guitars. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting time to be alive.
It's wild, man. Just within the last 5 years, honestly, like shit has gone all, I mean, from COVID to like the shit with, you know, like politics are crazier than ever. Like it's all just fucking, everything just feels completely just thrown around. Like
the foundation's on quicksand.
Yeah, man. It's just things are moving so fast. Things are changing so fast. It's like, things are just getting scary, like the economy, like, and all across America, really. But, you know, here it's like insane with fucking cost of living, and man, it's just like, holy shit. And yeah, I don't know, but we'll see, man. We'll see what happens in the
next.
next.
Yeah, $1 does not get you as far as it used to. Like not even a couple of years ago. And, well, yeah, you're kind of used to living off of a certain amount of money, and then it's like halfway through the month, you're like, well, that's gone. What happened? What did I go on a Amazon spree or something that I forgot about? And you're like, oh no, it was just the groceries. Oh shit, that's not cool. Yeah. I don't know what anyone's going to do to fix it. I mean, it seems like things are just getting worse. Yep.
Yeah, and just being a musician now, basically like an independent contractor, right? So it's like you're making you're self-employed, you're an entrepreneur, like your music is your company. So it's like having to live off of your streaming and royalties and shows and touring and all that. I'm sure it can be stressful. So tell us a little bit about that, like for maybe newer artists or people who don't really know how the music industry works in that regard. Like, how's your experience? Like you were talking about Metropolis before, but like with labels and touring and shit, and like, how has it been for you with your experience in maybe the past, ever since touring came back after COVID? Like, everyone's kind of talking about how touring has gotten so much more expensive, like with the increase in costs and gas and XYZ. So like, how has it been for you, like being able to like make a living and survive and thrive in music alone?
Yeah, well, I mean, for sure, those things are true. Gas is more expensive, luckily we have cool fans. We try to do, VIP meet and greet and like, mini sets and stuff like that. And that really helps kind of offset those costs. Yeah. Our fans are great. They buy merch, and really that's what it comes down to, because, venues aren't even willing to put out as much money, as they were just a couple of years ago, so even if the guarantees go down, it's like we can still be out there because we know our fans are going to show up, but
have they gone down?
Well, I mean, in some places and some places not, but what I mean? Like I've seen it fluctuate up and down over years, but like it looked like during COVID and immediately following, no one wanted to pay full price for a show because it was just such a huge risk to the promoter.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like, you got X amount last time you were here, but I don't know if anyone's going to come out because everyone's afraid to get sick or whatever. Even a couple of years after, So, I even on this last tour I was just on last month, I heard some promoters tell me that people, are finally starting to go back out. I'm like, what? Like they're only just now starting to. It's crazy. But I don't know how it works. As far as making a living off of music, don't do just one thing. That's what I'll say. Don't. As much as you have to give everything 100%, don't have all of your eggs in only one basket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know that it's asking a lot to give 100% of yourself to more than one thing. I mean, it's technically impossible, right?
Yeah.
But you kind of have to, like I've been doing music for film for the past 4 or 5 years, doing some stuff for like AMC and Netflix. And, I've been lucky to kind of get picked up by some composers who were, fans of mine, who wanted to work with me on X, Y, and Z. And then, I kind of got my foot in the door and started working with other directors. And, and that's a crazy challenge. But, in between tours, it certainly helps a lot to be able to have something else to fall back on musically, as well as an artistic challenge, So, yeah. Yeah, I would say, definitely don't keep all your eggs in one basket. Do as much as you can, but, you also can't succeed in music unless you give it 100%. So you got to have 200% of yourself,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, having the multiple revenue streams, multiple income streams is like a necessity, absolutely like mandatory to survive in music. The shows are brutal. Like you said, the guarantees fluctuate, and a lot of the time they're not really enough. They're not like, unless you're like a huge band.
No one's getting rich off of this.
Yeah, and it's like,
I'll say that much.
Yeah, and then some venues like take part of your merch. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's brutal.
Oh man, yeah. those are like the worst nights. You know, you're getting through the end of the night or whatever, and maybe it's not even a particularly good night, let's say, and that's when the, you know, promoter comes up and like, oh yeah, and by the way, you owe us, you know, 15% of your merch sales. And you're like, oh, it just got better.
Yeah.
You know, that seems so strange to me. You know, why a venue would take a percentage of a band's merch sales. It's like, you know, the band's the reason you made money in the first place at all. You know, maybe it didn't sell out that night or something, but you still had a bunch of kids at the bar and everything. Right. You know, everyone made some money or whatever. It's like, it just feels like you're kind of getting held up at the end of the night. It really does, man.
I bet. Yeah. I mean, especially when you're not getting like a great guarantee anyway. It's like you're getting shafted with the guarantee. Like, you know, you're bringing in a lot of people. They're buying alcohol. They're buying, you know, they're getting food at some of the places. It's like you're the reason why the venue's making the money. So then at the end of the night, yeah, they come to collect. It's like fucking. It seems brutal.
A little weird. Yeah,
it is.
And I've heard other bands like kind of go off about it. You know, I'll say it happens very rarely to us, and it's been more and more rare recently.
Good.
So I think that there was some band a couple years ago that like made some post that went viral about this. I can't remember who it was or whatever, but it was like a big deal. I think they might have been on a Live Nation tour or something. I don't even know, but like they went off about bands or venues taking like a percentage of the merch cut. And you know what? I think I'm confusing two things. I think I'm thinking about that band that was talking about merch girls getting tips. Do you remember that one? Mm-hmm. Oh my God. It was horrible. Band was talking about how merch girls shouldn't get tips or whatever, and it should only go to the band or something like that. I was like, oh man, that was rough. I think I just confused two stories, but I think that guy got. You didn't see that? You didn't see what I'm talking about? No. It got passed around a bit. Like
what was that one viral thing where it was like some dude, he like created a fake band and like got some, or he got some show and he showed up and it was like, it wasn't a band or something. It was just, do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was around the same time.
Yeah. He somehow talked himself up to get to some, like, it was like a big venue too or something, right?
And then no one showed up.
Yeah.
It was like a couple of people.
Dude had like a bunch of followers or something. Yeah.
It's just such a gnarly industry. And it's like, it's really, you know, you really, really, really fucking have to love it. And you really have to like,
or you have to hate everything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, cause it's you're putting yourself through a lot of suffering to continue with music and to, if all the suffering is worth like those few moments of bliss, then great. But it's like, if it's all about those moments on stage and in the studio when people hear your music, great. But it's like, that's why so many people, I've seen so many talented people, like artists, they're so fucking good, but they don't want to push through all those hard times because it's like, and I don't blame them, dude, because this shit is it's hard. It's so fucking hard. Great job, man. Like seriously, because you've had a really long career and you've been consistent and you've been playing, you know, you've been putting out great records and videos and touring, and like I've been watching you, dude, for a long time, and like, so great job for surviving and thriving, honestly.
Well, thanks, man.
For sure.
Yeah, for me, I really think it's the prospect of doing anything else. I can't do it. I can't, you know what I mean? So this music for me, like I've had a one-track mind since I was 14 and I saw Megadeth for the first time and I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. And I just, nothing else, you know, nothing else caught my attention. You know, and there have been times, you know, like between tours, like back in the day where, you know, I'm like, okay, well, I think it's time to get a day job, you know. It's like I'm doing maybe one tour a year and it's not paying anything, you know, back in the early 2000s and stuff. And I just couldn't hack it nowhere, man. I don't know if there's something wrong with me, but like...
No, there's nothing wrong with you.
I can't fucking do it. I can't be somewhere for more than a couple months before I lose my mind. I can't do it.
Yeah. But I think most people feel that, but they have no other choice, because like a lot of the people I've seen, they're great at music. They have a good run for like 5-10 years, but then once you have a family and you're married with kids, and it's like, okay, now I can't fuck around, because it's like you're responsible for other people, and it's your duty to provide.
For sure, and that's a different story.
Yeah, but then it's like people are like, okay, give 110% because now I have, you know, people like, I really can't fuck around anymore. You know what I mean?
No,
but that's why I think there's so many compromises in music, and, you know, for following this kind of a dream, it's like we really give up a lot. We give up a fucking so much to be able to do this.
But yeah, there are hard decisions, and like you just brought up family stuff, you know, it's like, well, you know, if I ever did want to have a family, you know, it's like, oh, well, probably can't do music, you know, I'm getting by or whatever, but like, I don't think I could raise a kid on this kind of, you know, pay. So, you know, I'd have to do something else. And it's like, then I'd hate my life, and that wouldn't be fair to a kid, you know? Like, hey, you're the reason why I couldn't do what I love doing. You know, I don't know. It's just like a whole full circle.
Yeah.
I'm like half joking, but yeah, I mean, sure, I'm positive like every musician like has those thoughts about like, you know, what different lives they could have had they gone another direction. What if I, you know, went to law school or did this or that, or, you know, XYZ, or had a family or whatever. And maybe some of those ideas can look good, you know, like in those moments where you're thinking about it, you know, where you're only kind of seeing the good moments. Like you're playing catch with your kid and he's already like 5 or something, you know. You know, those are the only thing we don't really think about, all the hard times or whatever. So, but yeah, you know, that can be a bit of a bummer, I guess, sometimes if you really think about what things could have been like. But, you know, the grass is almost always greener, you know, depending on your frame of mind at any given moment. You know, you could just be having a bad day and think, oh, what if I did X, Y, and Z? Maybe things would be different. But, you know, like, I don't know. I feel really lucky because I've been able to do what I love doing, you know, and, you know, while maybe I've had definitely, you know, times in my lives where I've questioned things, and, you know, like I'm like really into physics, like theoretical physics and stuff like that. And at one point I seriously entertained like I'm going to go to college and get a physics degree, and I'm going to go work at fucking CERN or something, you know, like the Hadron Collider. And, you know, it's just like, oh, well, that's going to take like 15 years, and then I can't really do music. And, you know, it always just kept coming down to music for me, you know?
Yeah, because that's the thing I noticed too, is like once you're, you know, I'm like, I'll be 40 next year, but I think it's like, it happens to a lot of people where it's like you hit that like midlife and you're like, okay, well, whether you're doing music or some kind of career. But what I've noticed too about a lot of people in music is like they're so fucking talented at what they do in music, whether they're a guitarist, singer, drummer, whatever. But I've noticed that a lot of people like that, they're also very, very talented at other things. Like they're like with you and your, you know, you have other hobbies and what you just mentioned. And like I noticed that with a lot of these other people, like they're very, very, they have like something else that they're just as good at that they could have also been very successful in, you know what I mean? And maybe other things. And it's like, so if you pivot at that point, it's like you've already invested like fucking 20, 30 years into one thing. So now if you want to pivot into something else, it's like
that sunken cost fallacy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they call it.
Yeah.
Right?
So I feel you with that. But yeah. And I think about like, man, like I was just saying, you know, to do music, there's a lot of compromise and you have to give up a lot. But at the same time, I've seen so many great musicians that have like, they've suffered through the struggle of becoming huge, but they also have a wife, or they have a family and kids during that, and they've raised their kids, and they've done all that at the same time and still managed to be successful. And it's like, wow, it's super inspiring to me, because it's like,
well, and kids are resilient too. They don't know. They don't, like, you know, you're born where you're born into whatever you're born into, whatever situation, right?
Yeah.
You know, you don't know like you grew up poor until you're older, and you know, you're like, oh, I must have grown up poor because, you know, you guys all had fucking Mercedes and Lunchables or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but you can put in fucking, I've seen people that they put in like 10, 20, 30 years in music and then nothing happens. But that 1 year,
31 year,
then shit pops off, or like something happens, and it's like, if you weren't strong enough to push through all those dark years, then you know
dude,
what I mean?
I had a friend, Davey Havoc, at AFI.
Yeah.
And I remember him telling me, like, we were friends around the time he got signed to Nitro Records. And he, you know, they started that band when he was like 15, you know, and he blew up when he was in his 30s, you know. It's like, you know, it was almost like 20 fucking years later, you know, that band exploded. And if you, I mean, how many albums was that? You know, like album after album after album, you know, and then finally something connects with the mainstream and just reaches escape velocity. And you never know, you know, who it's going to be or what the sound's going to be or whatever, you know, but if you just keep doing you and you just don't stop, you know, like you'll have a moment.
Yeah.
You know, it might not be fucking AFI moment,
yeah,
but
it may not be exactly what you thought, but something will happen if you I think a big thing too is like having that faith and believing in yourself, because I think I've noticed too with myself, like when you get in those dark moments, it's like, it's super dark. It's super down on yourself, and you like have your doubts, and I'm sure you've had doubts too, but it's like, if you can just like remember why you started music and just keep going and having that faith, I think you can put yourself in a better mindset. But it's fucking hard, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem is at some point it becomes a job. And that's not why you started music. It wasn't to have a job. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I want to make money doing this. It's like, you just wanted to do it. You know, like, I mean, I don't know about you. I remember, you know, just being a kid and like, it just looked like the coolest fucking thing in the world. And like, I remember how music moved me, you know, and it's just to think that I could be that cool and do that, you know, to other people. I didn't money wasn't even a thought, you know. It's like, I want to fucking tour, dude. I want to, you know, be on stage and, you know, have fucking cool hair and, you know, play guitar or whatever, you know. I mean, originally I wanted to play bass, but, you know, grew up in kind of like a small town, you know, couldn't really find any band members that were, you know, wanting to do anything kind of close to what I wanted to do. So I kind of had to do everything, you know, and I think that's what it takes, you know. It's like you have to have the kind of personality where, you know, you don't sit around waiting to find band members. You don't sit around waiting for XYZ. I mean, because sadly, like, no one wants to come around until you're already successful.
Oh God, that's a whole nother. I could talk about that.
It's true, man.
Yeah.
Like I've had so many people talk to me like, "Oh yeah, I've been wanting to start a band, but I can't find a guitar player." I'm like, learn how to fucking play guitar.
Yep.
Because, you know, a good guitar player is gonna not give a shit. They're not gonna care unless you have some cool tour or you're out, you know, your signed band, your album is doing well, people are talking about you. No one gives a shit, you know, and it sucks. A lot of people suck. Now, I feel you on the flip side of things too. I totally get it. Like, you know, also it just seems like human beings in general don't want to fuck with you unless you've done something cool or something like that. And there's like a lot of name droppers out there, and it's all kind of gross.
I just feel like there are people out there that they see and they feel your potential and they see you regardless of where you are in your career, and they can connect with you, and then they're there with you for the ride, and you're there with them. And I've had quite a few people like that in my life. Like even right now, I can think of a few that like we've been together in a journey, and we're moving up together.
After, yeah, totally.
And whether the success comes or not, I don't care, because it's about the person, and you know, that relationship, that true, authentic, like honest relationship. And I value that. I really do. And not only with, you know, partners, but with people in music and business partners. It's like, you know, I can tell, like, sometimes it takes a little bit of time, like it takes a while, but also it doesn't. There's certain people I've met in my life that I can feel right away, like, okay, you're one of the good ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a hell of a fucking journey, and I could tell you've been on a hell of a journey with this project and music, and I'm glad you're still doing your thing, and you have a tour coming up. Tell us about that. Tell us about what you can talk about.
Well, so one of the tours that I can talk about, going back to Europe, which I'm really excited about. We're playing in Scotland for the first time. I've played in Scotland with Scold when we were touring with Motionless in White a few years ago. It was like right before COVID, and it was fucking raining like crazy the whole time I was there, so I didn't really get to experience it at all. So I'm happy that I think we have a day off, you know, in Scotland, go check out some castles or whatever, you know, do all the shit that we Americans do whenever we get a chance to go out to Europe is just check out all the cool architecture, and you know, because all we have here are just fucking Walmarts and CVS as far as you can see, and Starbucks. Sorry, so we're getting to play a few places we've never been. Edinburgh, Scotland, Liria, Portugal, Madrid, and Spain. Those are 3 places that we haven't played yet. Really looking forward to those.
Sick.
We're doing a festival called Castle Party.
Fuck yeah.
In Poland, or I don't know if you've seen pictures.
Oh hell yeah, it's incredible, dude.
It's in
I want to go so bad. I know it looks fucking incredible. And one of my a recent friend I just started talking to. He was here like a couple weeks ago, but you know who HIWTDI Night is, The Awakening. He's playing. Yeah, you guys are playing together at that. He's playing that as well.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. But dude, I've always wanted to go to that. It looks fucking sick. No, you've played it before, right?
No. We were scheduled to play it a couple of years ago, and our fucking guitar player, something was fucked up with his passport. I think it was supposed to expire in a couple months right after that, and apparently Germany won't let you in if your passport's going to expire within 6 months.
Holy shit! What?
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Apparently there was a conversation about this like a month prior, because we were actually on a U.S. tour, and there was a conversation between my drummer and my guitar player about it. And my guitar player said, fuck, I'll take a chance. So they knew about, I didn't find out till we were at the fucking ticket gate. Like literally, I'm like, here's my passport, here's my guitar player's passport, here's this and that. Oh, well, he can't go. Wait, what? You know, so like we were like in the airport trying to board the fucking plane, find out that we can't go. And
so you just canceled it, or?
I mean,
you could have put it like guitar on a track or something, but then you would have had to like do that on the laptop or something, like on the plane.
I didn't even have a laptop set up or anything. You know, I had everything was just ready to go from the tour that we were already on. Yeah. And all my studio stuff was back home in the studio, you know. And no, I did not have time. The plane was about to fucking board, and it had just been me and a drummer, you know. And I don't think that's, you know, while it sucks to not show up for the fans, I also don't want to give them a shitty show, you know.
Yeah.
But here we are, a couple of years later, we're about to go back and do it, and we did another headlining show in Poland last year. And a lot of people that came out to see us at Castle Party, you know, got a chance to come out and see us at like a smaller club, and it was fucking packed. It was totally insane. It was great. I mean, Europe is a different atmosphere, a different beast. You know what I mean? I think that we maybe connect with people more there, or maybe they're just more open to kind of the weird shit that we do. And the shows are just always insane, and it's really great. So I'm glad that we're going over there a little more often these days, because we kind of stopped for a couple of years, you know, especially around COVID and everything. There was like 3 or 4 years we didn't make it over there, and it's starting to kind of pick up into like a yearly thing again. And, you know, there's other stuff I would love to talk about too, that's super fucking exciting, but it's just not quite there yet. So maybe we'll have to come back after that.
We'll do another one next year, and we can catch up on all that. But dude, man, thank you so much for coming and checking out the studio and having a chat. And like, it's like I've been wanting to talk to you for years, and it's cool to have you here and to learn a bit more about you and to, you know, hear about what's been going on. But yeah, like I fucking dig your stuff. I know like you have so many great fans that appreciate like all the nuances to your music, and especially like your vocal style is sick.
It's all Chuck Schuldiner, man.
Huh?
Chuck Schuldiner.
Really?
Yeah, I used to only do low death metal vocals, like back in my little garage band days or whatever, you know, trying to sound like Glenn Benton, Deicide. And then Death came out with Sound of Perseverance, and Chuck's voice got all super high or whatever, and my guitar player for my little garage band, you know, was trying to learn the first song on that album, Scavenger of Human Sorrow, and he wanted to cover it. So he asked me to do the vocals, and I'm like, how the fuck is he doing that? And I found it, and then I just never stopped singing that way, basically. So it's all Chuck Schuldiner.
Wow, I would have never thought that. I would never put that together. Is the technique, is it in or out?
Oh, it's out.
It's out. Oh, that's sick, dude. Yeah, because it sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like aggressive, but it sounds like an inward scream. But yeah, that's cool, because like no, like inward can be damaging, like if you don't do it right too.
Yeah, I mean, I figured out that I could do that inward thing, like that super high thing. There's a couple screams on the album Order the Shadow that are like just like, you know, shit that would make Danny Filth cover his ears. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, okay, I can do that too, you know? But I didn't realize that he was going in when he did that, you know? But I think that's fun and cool or whatever, but no, it's not, yeah, it's just out, you know? And like, I wouldn't say it's overly loud, but it's not super quiet either, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like maybe like the volume that we're talking right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there weren't a bunch of YouTube videos talking about Fry screaming and this and that back then. So, I don't know what technique it is. It's just, I tried to sound like Chuck Schuldiner. That's how I sounded. And I kept doing it. Yeah,
but you figured out a way to do it for your voice that like is sustainable and you're not damaged. Like it's not causing any issues at all.
Yeah. Like I'll rehearse, you know, for a couple days, and I'll sound kind of garbagey for the first few days. I'll say that much. And then about the third or fourth day, it just hits, and for the whole tour, I'll be fine.
Interesting.
But I just gotta kind of have to blow my voice out a little bit first. I don't know what that is about. And at the beginning of every tour or every recording session, I think, oh, well, that's it. I'm done. I can't do it anymore or something. And then, you know, if I don't scream for like 6 months or something.
Okay.
And then I'm like, no, it's just that fucking stupid thing. You got to go a couple days and then you'll be back in shape or whatever. So
interesting. Thank you so much. And tell everyone where they can check out your music and like your socials and websites and all that. And yeah, everyone check out the new record, check out the new video, and yeah, let us know where we can find you.
Yeah, it's Instagram.com/Psyclon9, I think all one word, or Instagram.com/NERO_BELLUM_official. Then we have a Bandcamp page, Psyclon9, where you can find a bunch of merch, and we have a new box set that's going to be shipping super soon that I'm really stoked about, with some cassettes, singles, and shit. Yeah.
Do you have vinyls? Do you have vinyl?
Nice. Yeah, we have this awesome like transparent black ice vinyl, limited edition of the new album.
Yes.
And that's probably going to sell out quick, so if you're listening, go get it.
Thanks so much, guys. Cheers.